Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. My channel is about marriage to a woman from the Philippines. And I want to talk today about this question: are foreign men more loving than Filipinos? Their comment here, not all Pinays get married like that to get out of poverty. We Pinays believe that a foreigner is more loving, not because of money. So that's what I want to talk about, this idea of foreigners are more loving, because I've heard this many times before, actually, and this is the first time I've wanted to really comment on it as I go through this list of topics. So I don't know that we can say, or if there are reasons why a foreigner would be considered more loving. I mean, can you help me out with this? If you're out there and watching this video, if you're a foreign man or if you're a woman from the Philippines, why do you hear that these foreign men make attractive husbands to women from the Philippines, especially much younger ones, because of an apparent belief or reputation that the foreigner is more loving? It's not because of the money. I think it's okay to say the money is a certain part of it, no question about it. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. Women want to be provided for, but the notion of being more loving. Well, one thing that comes to mind, I've heard some women say, well, the foreign men have been through a divorce, even if it's once or twice, and therefore they've learned how to be better husbands because they've been married before. Not so much, married before, but that somehow through the process of time, they've been through so much, even breakups, that somehow they've now learned to be more loving, whereas if you married them when they were younger, they're not going to be as loving as they are now in their 50s and 60s. Same thing could be said for the young Filipino men. Well, right now they're just not experienced enough to know how to love and be selfish and kind and generous. So therefore, I'm going to look for either an older Filipino, I'm not sure how common that is there, or I'm going to look for an older Westerner, not because of the money angle, but because they are more mature and therefore more capable of loving. But I've heard many stories of these relationships, foreigner and Filipinas, that don't end up well. And what happened to the man's experience? And I'm not saying he had been married before, but I know some guys looking for Philippine wives have been married several times. Or they've never been married before and don't think they can find anybody else. But the newcomers, like I was, I'd never had it'd been 30 some years before I had a relationship. At the time I married my wife, when you're young, you really don't know that much. Even if you're older, if you haven't had a lot of dating experience, maybe you really don't know much more than a younger Western man, because of the lack of experience. And one could also say, well, these older guys that they're marrying have been married before and it didn't work out. Maybe they haven't learned what they had to learn. I mean, who knows? But just this dangerous idea of, well, they're older foreigners and so they're more loving. I guess I would question that. That's what I want your comment on here today. I would just question it. I'm not saying they aren't loving, and I'm not saying these older Westerners have not learned something from the school of hard knocks and come to realize, how easy it is to be selfish and how we need to be able to be forgiving of somebody in order to stay married. Now, that's easier for an older person, but if somebody's been through some tough times, they didn't learn from it, they can get hardened. And you might end up marrying some guy you think is more experienced with life, and therefore somehow that automatically makes him wiser, and you could be very, very disappointed. I think you need to talk about experiences. I guess I'm talking to the Filipinas now, which I don't really like to do, but you're dating an older Westerner, you're online, you've had something going, some communication. I would ask him to talk about his past. I don't think he should be embarrassed to talk about his past, his mistakes, if he'd been married before, what happened. I know that gets personal, but we are talking about marriage, once in a lifetime situation. So I think any question is on the table and is fair game. So what did you learn from your mistakes? What would you do differently next time? Because it's always easy to blame the other person for a relationship that didn't work out. And nobody wants to hear anybody complain about that. But if you're looking to marry someone that's been married before, or even if they haven't, you find out, well, how many relationships have you had, and how did those relationships go? You want to learn what you can about their past relationships, because that kind of tells you their mindset on interpersonal relationships. So anyway, I want to hear from you. I don't think it's fair to say that foreigners are more loving. Some of them certainly are not, and they're certainly, I'm sure, very loving and younger Filipino men who would treat a woman the right way. So this stereotype here is what I'm talking about today. Leave a comment here on Love Beyond the Sea.